Hi amateur chefs, welcome or welcome back to my channel, Amateur-ish. Today we will be making glazed salmon. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video. Let's get started. So these are all the ingredients that I'm going to be using in today's video. I'll have them listed in the description box below, so make sure you check it out. So first we're gonna have the salmon. I did pat it dry a little bit, and then I'm gonna add some seasoning salt to it, and now I'm adding some Old Bay. Now you don't want to add too much of any one of these ingredients just because the amino acids that we're going to add later on in the sauce is going to add that salt content, but I do want to make sure it's well seasoned. So right now I'm just adding some complete seasoning, and you can see I'm adding just a little bit. Oh, I added a little bit too much right there, but I'm going to spread it all out so we're all good. So now some black pepper. And I'm using quite a bit of black pepper. I just kind of like that. And then some onion powder. And of course, onion powder, I was a little heavy-handed because it doesn't really matter. And then with a spoon, I'm just going to add some garlic powder onto the fish. And like I said, again, guys, it doesn't need too much seasoning, but for some reason I had to add this one in. I just like it because it has a little bit of a kick, some Louisiana style Cajun. So I added a little bit of it to that. So now we're massaging all of that in there and packing it in really, really good, making sure that the entire fish has it and it's really seeping through the fish. So once that is done, I'm going to put the fish aside and start the sauce. So this is amino acids. Amino acid is the same, liquid is the same as soy sauce. So it's just a natural soy sauce. So this part, I'm speeding through it, but I'm just adding some lemon juice onto it. I'm using 2 or 2.5 lemons to do this. And as you guys can see, the seeds are still in there. I'll take them out. But wanted you guys to see this, these lemons were a little bit way too hard, so I struggled a little bit. So now I'm adding some honey. I added about 2 spoons of honey. And then here we go with some red pepper flakes. Now with the red pepper flakes, do not be too heavy-handed on this if you don't like a little bit of heat. I do like heat, so I did add quite a bit. But even with that, it didn't do much for me. But I love hot food, so that's probably why I didn't really do anything for me. But you want to make sure that you are incorporating the honey into the liquid as much as possible. So that's why I'm taking my time and really just mixing it in. And I didn't speed through this so you guys can just see how I'm like scraping against the bowl and making sure that all of the honey is nicely incorporated in it. And we are going to make this more of reduced down to like a caramel. Now we're going to add some garlic. This is some minced garlic I'm adding in here. And then we're going to add some onions. Now the onions are not necessary. I just love onions. You guys are going to hear me love probably all the things people hate, like ginger, garlic. I love them. I add them a lot of times to recipes. So 9 times out of 10, if you're eating my food, it has onions in it. So I'm gonna mix that in together. Again, just checking to make sure that the honey is nicely incorporated. And then there you have it. We're gonna put the sauce off to the side. Next up, we have the cast iron skillet. Now be careful if you are not used to handling a cast iron skillet. It gets really hot and food tends to burn pretty quickly when you use it. So be careful. I added some olive oil into it, and now I'm just spreading it out. Once it starts to get hot, I really try to avoid it as possible. So I have the heat all the way up and then I turn it down. So with my hand, I'm kind of just checking it a little bit to see where the heat is, and the heat is just right. So now I'm adding the fish face down so the side can get some color in it. And also you're just gonna leave it there for about 2 to 3 minutes. I'm patting it down. Again, cast iron skillets, you guys can't really tell in the video, but it's really, really hot. I am touching it and mixing it around. I'm a pro at this, but again, guys, do not touch the cast iron skillet by hand because it is pretty hot, but wanted to make sure that I added enough oil. Okay, it's time to flip. Cast iron skillets could be a little bit tricky. As you can see, I'm trying to lift, but it's not naturally letting me lift it up. So it's not ready to go yet. So you want to kind of tug it a little bit, but you don't want to force it so you don't rip it too much. So this is me just kind of checking on it and seeing, is it ready for me to flip? And it's not. So I just pat it down and wait until it's time for me to flip it. All right, so it was time to flip and it was ready to go. So I did turn the heat down because I don't want to overcook it. I'm adding in the sauce, and then as you can see, look, the cast iron skillet was already pretty hot, so that's why it automatically started boiling as soon as I put in the sauce. And we're gonna let the sauce reduce, but what I wanted to do to make sure that the seasoning and also the sauce gets incorporated into the fish. So I'm just tossing some of that in there, and then I'm gonna let it sit for a little bit so it can reduce, stirring occasionally so it doesn't stick to the pan. Again, remember, cast iron skillets tend to burn easily, so you don't want to do this too much at a high heat. You want to make sure that it is probably on a medium to lower heat as you get it to reduce, because with all the cooking of the fish in the beginning, the cast iron skillet is steaming hot. All right, guys, so we're just going to let this sit for about 5 to 10 minutes, checking the consistency with the spoon. So you see I'm looking at it to see if it has more of a caramelized glaze. It doesn't. So I'm just lifting it up under the fish and just mixing it around in the pan. All right, so it's pretty much hit the stage of where I want it to look. You see where the bubbles kind of look like a syrupy or caramel look. I'm adding some lemons here because I'm going to toss it in the oven for about 5 minutes on broil, just to kind of cook it down a little bit so it gets the natural reduced texture that I want, as well as just to and get some color on the lemons. So I'm going to put it in the oven for about 5-10 minutes. And there you guys have it, glazed salmon. Now I am going to put this back in the oven just for a little bit longer because I didn't get the color that I wanted on the lemons. But that is basically it. And the next step is pretty much optional. If you want to put it back in the oven, that's just the way that I like it. But guys, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. This was the final product right here. If you haven't already, please thumbs up this video and make sure you subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys for joining Amateurish, and see you in my next video.